Hello again, welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. Boy, this one's been hard to get started, hasn't it, Eric?
Yeah, I know. I dropped off, you dropped off. We had our videographer with a power outage, supposedly, and had a backup person come in and then had them drop off. So yeah, it's been fun because we've been trying now for about 17 minutes by my clock to record usable video, and lo and behold, we now have at least, I'm guessing, about 20 seconds from our undisclosed locations, although yours looks like it's undisclosed and unfinished. So,
yeah, it's undisclosed and unfinished. We have a little chaos going on in the house, so I decided to retreat to the attic. Anyway, so what's going on in the world here, Eric?
As I'm sure everyone is aware, because of coronavirus spreading across the country, most folks have erred on the side of caution when it comes to holding events during the summer months. And of course, we've talked already numerous times about shows like Maggie and Farm Progress and Farm Science Review being pulled off the schedules because of the worry of gathering so many people together in an outdoor environment that you might be, end up with super spreaders of COVID. We found out this week that, as far as I know, the last of the outdoor events that was still on the calendar, the Sunbelt Ag Expo, has decided that they will not hold the show this year. So for the first time in 43 years, folks won't be heading to Moultrie, Georgia to attend the Sunbelt Ag Expo. So again, another outdoor equipment farm show off the table.
Yeah, and as we noted last time, I think the Farm Progress show is going virtual. So we've got a couple of virtual shows. We have to use our imagination in terms of what we put out there, but and it has to be something that's of value online.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's the world we're in right now, and if you want to use the old cliche, the world has given us lemons, so most of us are trying to make lemonade as best we can. And if it's a little too watery, we're sorry, but we'll keep trying as long as we have to deal with worries about gathering mass groups of people together and not wanting people to get sick. So.
Absolutely, and we've had our experiences too, and actually very positive ones with both the Tech Hub that's going out, the PrecisionAg Tech Hub, and what we essentially call a virtual Maggie, but it's really trying to get a sense for what the new products are and giving people an idea of what to expect for new products and application equipment and other things for retailers. Come for 2021. So in absence of being able to see it, you can get a sense for it and an understanding of it before you get maybe a live demo requested. So, we're doing what we can.
Yeah. Well, and I guess speaking of in-person versus virtual, I'm not quite sure if that's not a great segue, but I'll take it. You didn't really give me a good segue there, but at this point, Paul, have you heard this story about unknown seeds showing up in the mail, supposedly from China? They're going out to a bunch of folks across the U.S. Have you been hearing anything about that story recently?
Yeah, I hadn't heard much about it until I think yesterday afternoon. And actually, Willie Vogt, one of our friends, our ag media friends on the grower side, had posted a picture of that and asked if people were getting this because apparently he received one and no one had gotten to the bottom of it when I had seen it, but it's definitely out there.
Yeah, well, and I got a press release talking about it. I personally don't know anyone who's received one of these packages yet, but the folks at Purdue put out a press release yesterday. They were basically talking about, no one's quite sure what the seed is and why people in the U.S. are getting it. They think it might be some effort to promote or boost online reviews for a particular company, but the advice of most of the folks that are experts say don't plant these seeds because you don't know what they are. And the release I got said that if you have planted them, leave them in the ground, but call your local ag department to come and look at them and possibly remove them and treat them sort of as like a hazardous waste kind of deal. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any of our viewers out there have received seed packets from China, and we'd be curious. Drop us a line and let us know what you ended up doing with those ultimately. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary now that I think about it, and really think about it being toxic waste or problematic. But boy, yeah,
Yeah,
don't plant them.
right, exactly, because folks say that could be pathogens in these seeds, or they could be invasive species that will become like kudzu, and you don't want to go down those paths. So. The only other thing I have to share, Paul, is since we've been talking about China, I know we've noted in the last couple of videos that China has been doing serious buying of U.S. grains over the last month or so. And we found out about 4 or 5 days ago, another shipment of soybeans from U.S. growers is on its way to China. This one is 252,000 metric tons. So again, China is continuing to buy U.S. grains, which is boosting commodity prices, and that is, as we've said, good news for corn and soybean and wheat growers here in 2020. And good news has been a little hard to come by for folks, so we'll take it.
Absolutely, keep it coming. It is amazing, despite all the problems with the relationships that we've had. Food and foodstuffs continue to move.
Yep. So I think you have some news to share too about some buyouts, I believe, right?
Yeah, I just mentioned in Alceco, an Iowa cooperative in Albert City, acquired the full ownership of Ag Partners from Cargill. I mean, it was a partnership between them and Cargill. This is since 1997. And we know the folks at Ag Partners very well. We've done, a number of interviews with them, especially in terms of their precision programs and some of the things they do on that front. So, hopefully it's good news for them. Continued investment and growth and positive things. So again, that's just a kind of a buyout change in terms of who's owning, but no one's expecting any change on the ground. So congratulations to those folks and all the best.
Very good. So one thing to add, you gave me the segue a segment ago when you talked about food across the globe. I know we have teased that our good friend Amy Asmus was going to be putting together a cooking segment for us, basically on weeds, cooking with Amy, or if you can't beat them, eat them. And we've teased that segment. And if you folks will stand by after this video, we'll have an addendum to it, which is basically going to be Miss Amy preparing some delicious hamburgers for us using a couple of different wheat species as part of the condiments for the hamburgers.
Yep, and if I can get the recipe, I'll give it a try, and I'll eat one right here live on next week's Retail Week.
I'm sure the viewers will love that.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They're always loving that stuff, aren't they? All right, well, that's it for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. Stay tuned for Amy, and we'll see you next week.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy Asmus from Asmus Farm Supply, and today I'm going to prepare for you some of my favorite wild edibles. Just because we tag them as weeds or a plant out of place does not mean they aren't edible. But also be mindful that not everything sprouting forth from the earth is safe for human consumption, so know your plants before you eat them. Before I start today, I have a little story to tell you. My work in the realm of herbicide resistance puts me in the path of some pretty awesome weed scientists. I was speaking on a panel a few years ago in Italy and had the pleasure to work with Dr. Francois Tardif. He shared with me an experience he had with two gals that he works with at the University of Guelph, where he teaches. He worked with them to create a weed ID and management resource. These two young ladies each had other special talents as well, so they combined those also to create a great little book called The Good Season, Easy Recipes for Wild Edibles. The botany and photography was done by Michelle Arsenault, and the culinary expertise by Michelle Kartner. The book is available on Kindle, and it is where I have taken my recipes from today. Today I'm going to make beef, caramelized onion, and lamb's quarter burger with flash pickled purslane. For our recipe, I will need to gather a couple handfuls of purslane and at least 4 cups of packed lamb's quarter leaves. When you go out gathering, make sure you gather weeds that have not been treated with any sorts of pesticide or contaminated with any other environmental factors. I've been weeding around lamb's quarter and purslane in my garden, so I have lots of safe plants to forage in my landscaping. Let's go find some. Here we are at a patch of purslane. This here is the purslane plant. As you can see, it's actually a succulent, so the leaves are a little bit waxy and a little thick. You may also notice that the stems on the purslane could be brown and sometimes red. This is a wonderful plant. It has lots of healthful benefits and is good for you. Now another plant I want to show you that we're not going to use is the spotted spurge. This plant also has similar leaves, as you can tell, and the stem is also that red or brown color. What you'll notice is this is not a succulent. The leaves are very thin, and on the leaves are a little red spot. This red spotted spurge looks a lot like purslane, but you do not want to mistake it. One thing to remember is spurge will make you purge. It is poisonous, and I don't want you grabbing the wrong thing by mistake. Inside here, I have a patch of lamb's quarter. As you can tell, the lamb's quarter plant is identifiable by the leaf. It's almost an equilateral triangle on the leaf. The most identifiable feature, though, is the center of the plant, where there's a white substance on the new leaves that looks a lot like the wool on a lamb's. That's why it's easy to remember that this plant is called lamb's quarter. Now, I will take some time and harvest enough of these plants for our recipe. I'll grab an onion out of the garden, a little marjoram, and an egg from the chicken coop, and we'll go in the kitchen and start our recipe. We are back and we are in the kitchen now. As you can see, in my salad spinner, I have prepared the purslane. What I've done is just cut off little bite-sized pieces. We're going to pickle these, and they're going to go on the burgers. These are also really good if you have like roasted chicken or steaks or anything else you want a little pickle zip to. Use them as a garnish. It's a very versatile recipe. I like to use a canning jar because as I build the brine in here, when I put the purslane in, it will be covered with the brine and it will all be pickled. So let's start with our brine. We're going to start with half a cup of water. To that, we are going to add 1 cup of apple cider vinegar. We will have 4 tablespoons of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. When we get that all in the jar, instead of stirring it up, I just like to put on the lid and give it a quick shake. We just want to mix it up really well. And then all we have to do to finish this recipe is add our bite-sized purslane pieces. Let's fill it up here and make sure you press it down into the brine so the brine is covering it all. Now this will have to set at least 2 hours in the brine before using it. So make sure any recipe you use it with, you start it ahead of time. We're going to prep the stuff for our burgers, and we're going to set our pickled purslane aside, and we will be back when we're ready to make some burgers. Welcome back to the kitchen. I'm working on the burgers now, so I've done some prep for it. The first thing I did was I caramelized some onions, and if you pull up the recipe, you'll see that you take 3 tablespoons of olive oil, half of an onion chopped. I used a whole medium onion instead of half of a large, 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. And what I did was I put the olive oil in a pan, I browned the onions in there, and once everything was nice and dark brown and caramelized, I deglazed the pan with the balsamic vinegar, and we get this nice, dark, rich flavored of onion. I then prepped my lamb's quarter. Here, if you can remember, is the lamb's quarter we picked from the garden. To prep them, I just hold the stem, pull the leaves off, and then once the leaves are off, I throw them in my salad spinner. I soak them in water first to make sure you get all the bugs out, spin them up good and dry, and then they're ready to use. Once I got these two ingredients prepped, I took them to my food processor, and this looks kind of gross, but this is the caramelized onions and 4 ounces of the cleaned lamb's quarter leaves, and I ran them in the food processor till they became a paste. Let's add this paste into the burger. Also in this bowl, I'm going to add a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use this little bowl, take the egg we gathered from the chicken, and I'm going to just the yolk. The last thing I'm going to add to this is a tablespoon of chopped marjoram. You can also use thyme, like the recipe says. I didn't have any thyme in my garden, so I substitute marjoram. Once you get all the ingredients in the bowl, just dig right in and mix it up. It's a little fun if you're an agronomist like me and like to get your hands dirty in the dirt. This is no problem. Just scoop it up. It's a nice, gross green color, but that's the wonderful lamb's quarter doing that for you. Once you get this all mixed up, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a small-sized burger, and I'm going to fry these up. The reason I'm making slider-sized burgers is because when I get these all fried up and ready to eat, we're going to head over to Asmus Farm Supply, and I have a batch of hungry employees that are just waiting to try these burgers. So I'll finish making these patties, and we'll fry them up, and I'll see you at Asmus Farm Supply.
So here I am with Amy Asmus talking about cooking with Amy, or if in the weeds vernacular, if you can't beat them, eat them. You were talking about purslane, correct? That's what you were calling these leaves?
Purslane is what I pickled to put on the burgers.
Okay.
Purslane actually is very common edible, and a lot of people will use it on their salads. It can be sauteed. I like it pickled. So purslane's great. It actually has lots of antioxidants, and I wrote down what it wants, omega-3s.
Oh, okay. So like fish oil. Very nice.
Yes, so it's very healthy for you. I'm not aware of any limitations in the amount of purslane you can have. Unlike lamb's quarter, you want to limit that a little bit. I put that in the burgers. You don't want to eat that every day because it does have oxalic acids in it, which are toxic at high levels. But as long as it's not a staple in your everyday menu, I'm sure you're fine.
So for those of us who might be unfamiliar with either of these edibles in our burgers or our foods, I mean, I know my grandmother used to put dandelion ground up in a lot of the meat patties I had when I was a child. I know those had a very bitter taste. I wasn't really that fond of them when I was younger. I enjoy them now, but not when I was like 10 years old. But I'm curious, I mean, what do purslane and lamb's quarter, I mean, do they have a citrusy taste, bitter, sweet? What kind of, how would you describe their flavor?
Well, the lamb's quarter is basically a wild spinach. It's not really bitter. It has very much tastes like spinach. And it holds up when you saute it or use it in a recipe. So you could basically switch out lamb's quarter for any spinach in any recipe, and it basically tastes the same. You could pull some of the leaves and throw it in a salad and eat it raw. That's fine. The purslane actually is a little bit sweet. When I was a little kid, I used to run around and pick up the little sweet clovers that would grow in the cracks or around the yard, and you chew on those, and they were sweet. Purslane tastes very much like that. It's kind of a salty, sweet flavor. Actually, very enjoyable, I think.
All right, very good.
Well, it was funny when I had the crew in to try it. I made sliders so that everybody could come in and try it. And I put the pickled purslane out first. I was pulling it out of the jar and putting it on a plate so I could put it on top of the sliders for everybody to try it. And the guys were like just eating the straight pickled purslane going, "Oh, this is great."
That's fantastic.
So it's funny.
How did the burgers come out?
I thought they were great. Now, I didn't know that the lamb's quarter added much flavor to them because you've got the very strong caramelized onion flavor in it, but they were zippy and spicy. They were actually really good. We had the guys standing around, and I had enough for one for everybody and then a couple more extras. And one of our truck drivers, Craig, he went in to take a second one. He goes, "I'll take a second one." He ate that, and everybody's standing around looking at each other, and he goes, "You snooze, you lose." And he moved in for a third one. So they were quite good. Quite good. They're a little zippy with the onions, but
okay. And those buns looked interesting too. Are those brioche or?
Those were actually pretzel buns.
Oh, pretzel buns. Oh, okay. I bet that added some interesting tastes too.
Pretty bland, but a little more salt.
My name is Darcy Swearingen, and I am in accounting. I sampled the burgers that Amy made, and the glaze, it was very good. I was very surprised. Everybody was hesitant at first. It was like, "Oh, what are we eating?" But surprisingly, it was I was surprised how well it worked.
So yours would be, I mean, if we're doing like a movie reviews, is this a 5-star recipe, 4-star, 3-star? What would you give this in the thumbs up, thumbs down department? How many stars?
I would say it's a 5-star.
All right, that's what we're looking for.
So I am a sales agronomist here, and at first I didn't want to try them because I'm not very adventurous, but they were good.
How would you describe the flavor compared to other burgers you've had?
A little bit spicier and way more flavor.
I'm Nate Eitzman, an agronomist here at Asmus Farm Supply, and I thought the burgers were good. A little small for my liking, but they were good.
How would you describe their flavor?
Similar to a regular hamburger, the added ingredients weren't overwhelming flavor. They maybe added a little bit different texture, but flavor-wise, I don't know if I'd say spicy, but it was trending on the spicier side just a bit than a regular hamburger, but good. And the
very good
pickled purslane was very good.
Just tell everybody I'm not a Food Network star, and I hate being in front of the video.
We'll make you one. Give us a chance.
No.
Next time they're looking for a new chef, we'll be sending these as the demos in to replace whoever got into trouble with the IRS this week at the Food Network or whatever.
Yeah, just let you know that Iron Chef is not Iron Weed Chef.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.